Hi, I'm Deb Martz, and I'm going to be presenting my paper, Developing Programs to Retain Great Educators. So, when I began this journey to get my master's degree, I remember very clearly it was in my first class, it was the second week of school, and I read a statistic that I was shocked about. 41.3% of all teachers in the US will leave the profession within the first 5 years. Even reading it right now, I'm still shocked. And I tried to rationalize it because the date of the article was 2013, and I thought, 7 or 8 years have passed. Surely this number has gotten better. Wrong. The teacher shortage is reaching crisis levels as the number leaving after just a year in the classroom has hit an all-time high. That's from 2019, and that article was written before the pandemic. More teachers are dropping out after their first year than any other time in the last 20 years, while one in three leave after 5 years. A staggering 55% of educators are thinking about leaving the profession earlier than they had originally planned. 55%, that is over half of the current educators are thinking about leaving. Now, why does that matter? In an article by Garcia and Weiss, they put it this way: lack of sufficient qualified teachers and the staff instability that accompanies turnover threatens students' ability to learn and reduces teachers' effectiveness. How can you get good if you're always moving around? How do you get comfortable? How do you build relationships with your students? You don't. And our students are smart. They can figure that out. Why on earth would they want to get close to someone or build a relationship with them if they think they're going to be leaving? The second part of this: high teacher turnover consumes economic resources that could be better deployed elsewhere. I'm going to discuss this part a little bit later in the presentation. But teacher retention costs money. You have to retrain them. You have to do paperwork. You have to get all new credentials for them. And with the percentage of it happening, that takes a big chunk out of a school's bottom line. Now, research has shown that there are 4 common reasons why teachers leave: lack of support, burnout, feeling undervalued, and salary. So lack of support is twofold. It's not only administrative support that's lacking, it's also no support from colleagues or coworkers. Teachers report that they feel isolated and overwhelmed. They're afraid to ask for help because they don't want to look incompetent, and they don't see their peers going forward and asking for help. Burnout happens because when you're new, it's hard to say no. So you're already feeling overwhelmed, right? You're already feeling a little isolated, a little overwhelmed, a little fearful because you don't want to ask for help. And now somebody comes and asks you to join a group or lead something. You're going to say yes. So now you've just piled on more responsibilities to an already full plate. And we all know that once you volunteer for something, it is almost impossible to get out of it. So each year, you get more and more and more put on your plate. Burnout happens. And when that does happen, you're going to leave. Feeling undervalued. Now, this was interesting because it's not just new teachers that feel undervalued. It's teachers that have been there for 5, 10, 15 years. They feel that decisions that are affecting them and their classroom are being determined and being made by people who are no longer in the trenches. They no longer are in the day-to-day grind. And so when other people are making those decisions for you, that's when you begin to feel undervalued. And when you feel undervalued, you are not a team player. You begin to care less and less about the school district as a whole. And finally, salary. It makes me very sad that most of my teacher friends have to take a second job to make ends meet. We are doing something that is so important. We are taking care of not only the next generation, but the one after that, and the one after that, and the one after that. And salaries should reflect the job that we do. When school districts attempt to solve those four problems, they usually turn to mentoring. So a mentor is a trusted counselor and guardian. It's usually an older teacher that is paired with the new hire. And as I researched, there are mentoring programs that are out there that have worked. So then I thought, why aren't we using mentoring programs in our schools? Why haven't they added? And as I researched, sure enough, most school districts in the US have some kind of mentoring program in place, and yet they're getting the same result. Teachers are still leaving. So then the question, why? Why is this still happening? Well, one possible answer is that most mentors are current teachers who already have a full class load. And now we're asking them to take on a new person and help with all of their class load, because that's in essence what we are doing. So mentors are unable to meet the expectations, and new hires are left to fend for themselves. Now, I want to be clear right here. I am not faulting the mentors. It is not their fault. It is not their fault. Our system, the way that it is broken. Current programs focus mainly on one aspect, which is the relationship between the mentor and the new hire. So the technicalities, the small pieces that go into day-to-day training, that gets overlooked. There's no time for that because most of these programs are just meetings and checking on how they're doing, not actually getting in and trying to make real differences. So what I have put together is a program that has built off of these previous programs, but added elements that I think make all the difference. So my proposal entails university partnership and a new definition of pre-service, using retired school teachers as mentors, and using social emotional learning programs. University partnerships. Now, this is not a new idea. There are university partnerships out there. What I've done is I want to redefine what pre-service means. So right now, pre-service is any time between graduation and they get hired, okay? In my program, I want to extend that to any time before they are hired, including K through 12. So what am I talking about? When a child is gifted in math or science, we identify them and we put them on a certain path so that they can become more fluent and better in those areas. I'm suggesting we do the same thing for education. So when that little second grader comes up to you and says, hey, I want to be a teacher, that we identify that student and then we begin to treat them and cultivate that want. It's about being intentional. It's about using age-appropriate activities. Okay, there was a really sad statistic that I found, and it said that 28% of students, that there's been a 28% decline in the number of students. I apologize. Completing their teacher preparation programs. That means that these students have put 4 years of their life into being a teacher. They go and do their student teaching, and it's not what they wanted. What if this program can help determine that earlier, or give them a real life view of what it takes to be a teacher? That's what I'm hoping that this program can do. And by allowing the universities access to all parts of the campus, not just the high school, but giving them access to the elementary schools, giving them access to middle schools and the high schools, and vice versa, allowing all of those schools to have access to the campus. What I feel happens is that not only can this be used for education, which is what my main focus is, this can also be branched out and encompass all areas of classes that the university would offer. So if we're looking at money, if we're trying to implement these programs and a monetary value, that could definitely be used as a monetary value. Using retired school teachers. We already identified that most mentor programs in place use teachers that are currently employed. This doesn't work. By using a retired school teacher, they have a much more flexible schedule and much more time to devote to not only one new hire, but to possibly several new hires. They have the experience that we're looking for. They have experience in the district, in the building, in front of the classroom, and in the community. And just a little caveat, because it's very important that this, what I'm about to say, is implemented. So for example, taking my school district, you cannot take somebody from West A and put them into the Moon School District because they have no idea what the nuances of the building is. So you need to have that teacher that's been in the building, that taught in the building, that can navigate through all those little special things that occur in those communities. So just be very cognizant of when you're choosing mentors that they've been in the building and the district that you are choosing them to be in. All right, now implementing social emotional learning programs. Now I gotta admit, when I first heard about SEL, I was like, oh, great, it's going to be all kumbaya. Oh, you poor baby. You don't have to worry about taking the test. It's okay. Well, I am happy to report that it couldn't be further from what I thought SEL was about. SEL is a methodology that helps students and adults of all ages to better comprehend their emotions, to feel those emotions fully, and demonstrate empathy for others. I've said through my career here, that America is on a very dark path right now. We don't listen to each other's opinions. We don't respect each other. We shut down. If we don't figure out how to change that, we are in big trouble. And SEL helps to do that. It helps to establish and maintain supportive relationships and make responsible and caring decisions. So instead of freaking out and getting angry when someone disagrees with you, SEL gives us the tools to calm down, to take a breath, to be able to listen, to be able to agree to disagree, to be able to debate respectfully. We have got to get back to that. SEL can help empower students and adults to co-create thriving schools and communities. I talked about earlier, those 4 common reasons: support, burnout, feeling undervalued, and salary. SEL attacks all of those. You are supported because it's not just you. SEL is about the school, the parents, and the community. All of those working together, all of each other supporting each other. There is no burnout because you don't have to do everything. Parents can get involved. Community leaders get involved. Everybody is working together. You're not feeling undervalued because each one has a voice. You all work together to determine what the program is going to look like for your specific needs. And remember, I talked about high teacher turnover consumes economic resources that could be deployed elsewhere. SEL, those resources could be deployed for salaries. That could be a place that gets. In conclusion, teacher retention is an issue that has continued for decades. We must be able to admit that the current programs are not working, that they're not effective. It takes a village to raise a child, and SEL has all of those aspects where we're all working together to help our kids. If we do not work together in our communities to support and keep our teachers, our kids will be paying the price. Thank you so much for listening.